Now, this is not ancient history. This is causation. The Ayatollahs did not emerge from nowhere. They emerged from the ruins of a country that had its democracy stolen by the CIA when it was less than a decade old. And here's the part that really you should sit with, is that the hostage crisis in 79, the one that Caroline Levitt referenced in her White House briefing as justification for bombing Iran, happened because of what we did in 1953. We created the conditions for the revolutions that created the government that took these hostages, took this entire radicalism to that direction. And now 47 years after the hostage crisis and 73 years after we stole their democracy, we are using 1979 as the moral justification for 2026. Now, this is the blueprint. In 1996, a group of American foreign policy strategists sat down and wrote a document for the incoming Prime Minister of Boston. His name was Benjamin Netanyahu, and it was his first term. And they titled it A Clean Break, a new strategy for securing the realm. The lead author was Richard Perle. You might have heard his name. His nickname inside the Reagan-era Pentagon was the Prince of Darkness. Co-authors included Douglas Feith, David Wurmser. Both would go on to hold senior national security positions in the George Bush White House after September 11th, 2001. And here is what the document called for: abandon the Oslo Peace Process, destabilize Syria, remove Saddam Hussein from power in Iraq, and this is their exact language: roll back Iran. Clean break, a new strategy for securing the realm. It was published, I think I can find it actually. Let me look here. If you look, a clean break. Here it is. I'll just pull up the Wikipedia page. A clean break, a new strategy for securing the realm. Policy document that was prepared in 1996 by a study group led by Richard Perle for Benjamin Netanyahu, then Prime Minister of Israel, still today. The report explained a new approach to solving their security problems in the Middle East with an emphasis on Western values. It has since been criticized for advocating an aggressive new policy, including the removal of Saddam Hussein from power in Iraq. Not saying that he shouldn't be there, but again, it's part of a playbook. That's why I put this poll up. We have 151 votes. Did you know that this was a planned event from 30 years ago? Did you know? It's a 30-year plan, okay? According to the report's preamble, it was written by the study group in New Boston Strategy toward 2000, which was part of the Institute for Advanced Strategic and Political Studies, all right? This is all here. It's called A Clean Break, a new strategy for securing the realm. If I didn't put it in the description, I will, but I would like you to go and check that out so you understand the history of how we got here. Iraq was invaded in 2003. Syria was destabilized starting in 2011. Assad fell in December of 2024. Iran is being bombed as we speak today. That is the clean break checklist, executed in sequence across 6 American presidencies spanning both parties, written in 1996. Written in 96.
It's Netanyahu's 30-year plan to remake the Middle East and explains why Israel is further occupying and bombing Syria.
This is a historic day for the Middle East.
In 1996, a group of American neocons who had served in different US government positions prepared a policy document for the newly elected Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu. It was called Clean Break, a new strategy for securing the realm, and its objective was to ensure Israel regional supremacy in line with its Zionist principles. The first principle was there's no land for peace with the Palestinians, meaning no Palestinian state. The second was Israel would become immune to international pressure by growing stronger. And third, Israel needed to weaken and destabilize certain countries in the region. The main target at the time was Iraq.
If you take out Saddam's regime, I guarantee you that it will have enormous positive reverberations on the region.
Since his return to power, Netanyahu has been implementing this vision. Lebanon, Syria, and Iran were also on the list. After its war in Lebanon, Israel saw an opportunity to strengthen its position on the northern border, so it occupied more Syrian land and is bombing Syria relentlessly, and the international community didn't even bat an eye. The fall of the repressive Assad regime is something to celebrate. Israel will take every chance to undermine Syria and pursue greater Israel. And for Netanyahu,
a new strategy for Netanyahu coming in to the new prime minister position. And that report explained how they're going to create this greater project. Again, in 96, they wrote the clean break, okay? That was an organized effort to basically go 1, 2, 3 through these countries, all right? So again, Iraq was invaded in 2003. Syria was destabilized starting in 2011. Assad fell in December of 2024. Iran is being bombed as we speak. That is the clean break checklist executed in sequence across 6 American presidencies spanning both parties, written in 1996. Hold up 3 fingers. Did we get to this point? Not yet. Maybe this is where we're at. Hold up 3 fingers with me. Iraq, Syria, Iran. That is the checklist, the whole list. And right now, we are on that last name of the list. 4 years after clean break, in September of 2000, a group called the Project for the American Century, the New American Century, came out with this publication. It's a companion document that was called Rebuilding America's Defenses, and signatories like Dick Cheney, these are for sure, including Dick Cheney, Donald Rumsfeld, I'm all checking my mic, Donald Rumsfeld, Paul Wolfowitz, and Jeb Bush. They called it for regime change in Iraq, permanent U.S. military dominance in the Persian Gulf, and the projection of American power globally. And it included a sentence that haunted everyone that has analyzed this document since the post 9/11 era. Okay, this sentence is in this text, and that's where I was going at. Okay, so let's just continue from here. On page 51, remember, look at the date that this was made. Okay, September of 2000. When was 9/11? September of 2001. So why this right here is so important that I'm going to show you on page 51 is this right here. Okay, so creating tomorrow's dominant force. Any serious effort of transformation across must occur within the larger framework of U.S. national security strategy, military missions, and defense budgets. The United States cannot simply declare a strategic pause while experimenting with new technologies and operational concepts, nor can it choose to pursue a transformation strategy that would decouple American and allied interest. Okay? A transformation strategy that solely pursued capabilities for projecting force from the U.S., for example, a sacrificed forward basing and presence, would be at odds with larger American policy goals and would trouble American allies. So this is the sentence right here. This is what has analysts of 9/11 concerned about from a year before this was written. Furthermore, the process of transformation, even if it brings revolutionary change, is likely to be a long one, absent some catastrophic and catalyzing event like a new Pearl Harbor. Well, let's look up how many people died in Pearl Harbor. 1,403 Americans died in Pearl Harbor. Okay, 1,403. Most of them were military. Almost all of them were personnel. 68 civilians. Another 1,100 were wounded. How many people died in 9/11? 2,977. It's almost identical. 2,977. Okay. 2,400. It's like right there. Has anybody ever attached the two? No, I have. I'm telling you, this is a playbook that fix. Okay. And it's right here in our face. Domestic politics and industrial base will shape the pace and content of transformation as much as the current requirements of current missions, a decision to suspend or terminate, whatever, right? So why are people commenting when they're behind, bro? This is so annoying. All right. So just to put things into perspective, you can obviously see that there are correlations all over the place. And it started in 96, this plan, okay? Clean break checklist, executed in sequence. Then you've got this document that I just showed you, all right? That document was published September of 2000. 13 months later or less, September 11th, 2001 happened. Cheney and Rumsfeld were in the White House, the same people that created this document. See if it has the authors on here. Principal author, but the people involved doesn't say here. Let me see. Sorry. Anyways, yeah, Rumsfeld, all of them, they're in office at this time when this is being written, the rebuild of American defenses, right? Coincidence? I think not. Again, the document was published a year before 9/11, and then 9/11 happened. Cheney and Rumsfeld were in the White House. Within weeks, the administration was drawing lines from Al-Qaeda to Iraq that the CIA itself said were not supported by evidence. I'm not standing here today to tell you who is responsible for 9/11, but what I am telling you is that the policy response to 9/11 was already written. So if the response to 9/11 was written already by the United States, by people in the White House, who do you think was in charge? I'm asking you. Actually, I'm going to ask the poll. I'm going to ask the chat. Chat's in the polls in the chat. Do you think the U.S. was involved, or the manufacturers? Again, I'm not going to tell you who it was, but I'm showing you the playbook, okay? I'm showing you the playbook about the project for the new American century, established in spring of 97, 1 year after Clean Break, a new strategy for securing the realm was created. Okay? This is the playbook, guys. I'm sorry to be the one to tell you. The war you are watching now was mapped out on paper in Washington, D.C. in 1996. The people who wrote that paper are real. Their names are public. The document is public. I'll put both in my description. I'll do that right now, just in case, because I think it's important, the most important, for everyone to know exactly these two specifically. I'll put them at the top. Actually, I'll pin them in the comments. Let's do that. Let me go to my own comments right here, and I'm going to put it in here. Oh, I can't while it's live, can I? Well, anyways, here, I'm going to pin two things. Oops. I'm going to pin that, and I'm going to pin this book. You guys need to go watch it, go read it, and I'll pin them in the chat, all right? Those are two of some of the most important things that you need to read on American history revolving around this war in Iran. So the first one right here. So the Wikipedia is the Clean Break, and then the archive is Rebuilding America's Defenses, and that is the actual text. You can go read it. I've read it, some of it, not all of it, but I've read it. It's worth it. So again, you're watching something that had been mapped out on paper, and those people are real, and it's all public. Now, I have to tell you about something about the nature of the U.S. and Israel relationship, because it is not the equal partnership of two allies that it is sold to us as. The evidence tells a very different story. Jonathan Pollard, you've heard me talk about him on this channel multiple times. He was born in Galveston, Texas, an American citizen, U.S. Navy intelligence analyst with top security clearance. And in 1984 to 85, he passed approximately almost 1 million classified documents to Israeli intelligence. Not hundreds, but over 800,000 that we know of. The documents included NSA, the National Security Agency's intercepts of Soviet communications, U.S. intelligence on Arab military capabilities, U.S. nuclear targeting strategies. Thank you, Danielle, again. There's only one time that somebody's called me. I appreciate it. It makes me feel cared about. Imagine if it just goes to zero and I'm like, what happened? But thank you guys. So anyways, the document that Jonathan Pollard leaked was all of the intelligence that the NSA had been securing, and he was arrested in 1985 when he tried to seek asylum in the Boston embassy in Washington, and they turned him away. He served 30 years in federal prison, and Boston initially denied involvement, then called it a rogue operation, and then in 98, they just admitted that he had been an official intelligence asset. They gave him citizenship to Boston while he was still in U.S. prison. You could see, I could show you. Let me see if I can show you what they were saying. They wanted him to be released. And even here's something from your favorite ally.
The people of Israel welcome the release of Jonathan Pollard. As someone who raised his case before successive U.S. presidents many times, I long for this day.
I long
Now,
for this
after
day.
3 long and difficult decades, Jonathan is being
3 long and difficult decades? Yeah, because you had lost one of your best assets to stealing American intelligence. I wonder.
I wish him on this first Sabbath that he's going to spend with his family a lot of joy, a lot of happiness, a lot of peace.
This is an American.
Spending 30 years is a tremendous amount of time for leaking information that ended up saving Israelis' lives in the Gulf War. Because as a result of his actions, we knew that we had to go and have gas masks here. That if Saddam Hussein had used Scud missiles with chemical warheads, tremendous loss of life is prevented by him telling.
So they're pitching it as he saved lives. So that was tangible information that they needed, and it was worthy of him. They look at him as like a messiah or whatever because he stole American intelligence. I once said he should have been executed. Bays, shout out to Bays. I know he's live right now, I think. He said, hey, as a Christian, I don't think that should be the case. And, you know, I don't know. I'm not pro murder and all this stuff, but you put a lot. How many people do you think got killed? How many Americans do you think got killed because of those leaked informations? Think about it. Yeah, maybe they would have had an issue, but does that justify the fact that Pollard just gave a million documents to a foreign agent? No, doesn't matter. So whatever. Israel ran a spy inside the U.S. intelligence of the highest levels, stole 800,000 classified documents, and when caught, was given a spy citizenship while he sat in our federal prison. That is not behavior of an equal ally. That is the behavior of an intelligence service that views the relationship as something to be exploited as well as maintained. Okay, exploited and exploitation maintenance. In 1967, the Six-Day War was 4 days old, June 8th, 1967. An American Navy ship called the USS Liberty is in international waters in the Mediterranean, roughly 13 miles off the Sinai coast. It is a signals intelligence vessel. It is flying a United States flag. Boston aircraft and torpedo boats attacked it for over an hour. So for anybody to say that they didn't know, that is bullshit. It's bullshit. And it's not anti-Semitic. You can go fuck off with that. Excuse my language. It really pisses me off. And then we never did anything about it, okay? They killed 34 American sailors and wounded 171 additional. They jammed the ship's distress frequencies. They shot up the lifeboats so the crew could not evacuate. Boston said it was a mistake of mistaken identity. They thought it was an Egyptian ship. Captain Ward Boston, his name is actually Ward Boston, who served as legal counsel on the original Navy inquiry, signed a sworn affidavit in 2004 stating that the investigation was ordered to conclude it was an accident and that he personally believed it was intentional. He said under oath that he was ordered to lie. He said it under oath. Here it is. Declaration of Ward Boston, Captain JAGC. I do declare that the following statement is true and complete. For more than 30 years, I have remained silent on the topic of USS Liberty. I am a military man. When orders come in the Secretary of Defense and President of the United States, I follow them. However, recent attempts to rewrite history compel me to share the truth. In June of 1967, and he goes through the story, the evidence was clear. Both Admiral Kidd and I believe that this certainty that this attack, which killed American sailors and others were injured, was a deliberate effort to sink an American ship and murder its entire crew. Each evening, after hearing testimony all day, we often spoke of private thoughts concerning what we had seen and heard. I mean, following the conclusion of the court of inquiry, Kidd and I remained in contact. Though we never spoke of the attack in public, we discussed it between ourselves on occasion. Every time we discussed the attack, Kidd was adamant that it was a deliberate planned attack on an American ship. In 1990, I received a telephone call from Jay Crystal, who wanted to interview me regarding this court of inquiry. I told him I would not speak on that subject and prepared to hang up. And then Crystal began asking me about my personal background and other non-court inquiry-related matters. I endeavored to answer these questions. Finally, I suggested that he contact Kidd and asked him about the court of inquiry. So he's explaining this whole situation. Contrary to the misinformation presented by Crystal and others, it is important for the American people to know that it is clear that Boston is responsible for deliberately attacking an American ship and murdering American sailors whose bereaved shipmates have lived with this egregious conclusion for many years. Just type it in. Go look at it. Ward Boston, USS Liberty. Is that indicative of someone on our side? Over an hour, this was an attack that happened. That doesn't just happen on accident. It's not a mistaken identity. The United States government accepted this explanation that was officially published by Boston. The case was not Ward Boston, but the country Boston. The case was closed in under 3 weeks. 34 dead American sailors, 3 weeks closed. When you add Pollard, plus the USS Liberty, plus 7 White House visits, plus the joint assassination of a foreign head of state, a pattern, clearly, I'm a patterns guy. Okay, I'm a chart guy. I'm a data dude. Pattern emerges. And the pattern does not look like 2 equal allies. Now, inside the Boston Defense Force, there is an intelligence unit called 8200. It's Unit 8200. Think of it as Boston's NSA. Signals intelligence, they break code, they break ciphers, cyber operations. One of the most technically sophisticated intelligence organizations on the face of the planet. When soldiers complete their service in Unit 8200, a remarkable number go on to found technology companies, a remarkable number of these people from the unit. In Silicon Valley, in New York, in London, companies that end up running critical infrastructure globally, Checkpoint Software, CyberArk, Palo Alto Networks, many of them defining names in global security, were founded by Unit 8200 alumni. This is the NSA of Israel. When these companies' software is running on US government networks, on financial institution networks, on critical infrastructure, and the founders came out of the Boston Military Intelligence, the question is not conspiracy. The question is fiduciary. You are required to ask what the relationships look like. There's a Forbes article that I have here, okay? And I'll pull it up while I talk to you about this. This is the Forbes January 2016 Unit 8200 secret weapon startup machine, okay? Then there is this NSO Group founded in 2010 by 3 former intelligence operatives of Boston. Their product is called Pegasus. It is a zero-click spyware. Zero-click means that the target does nothing. Their product basically provides no link, no attachment. Pegasus is silently installed on your phone by exploiting vulnerabilities in the operating system. Isn't that interesting that Lori Franzvi has a patent that exploits critical vulnerabilities? Once it installs on your phone or device, it reads your messages, it listens through your microphone, and it sees through your camera, and it tracks everything you do in real time, including your location, everything that you do, who you talk to, all of it, what you're looking at, where you're at, all of it. And in 2021, a coalition of 80 journalists across 10 countries called the Pegasus Project identified a list of 50,000 phone numbers targeted for surveillance using this Pegasus Project. The list included 14 heads of state. President Macron was on the list, journalists, human rights lawyers, business executives. Pegasus Project, in July of 2021, there was an article written by The Guardian, and it goes into it. I was going to see if I could find it. They reveal, here it is. I think it's right here. Yeah, here it is. So revealed, leak uncovers global abuse of cyber surveillance weaponry. Spyware sold to authoritarian regimes used to target activists, politicians, and journalists, data suggests. All right? When you can surveil heads of state, you do not need to win an argument. You need the data. Data never expires. The file that you build today is the leverage you use for 5 years from now, 10 years, whatever. Pull back and look at the full architecture. The NSA mass collection programs that Snowden exposed, and he's still hiding. Now, that's very different than what Jonathan Pollard did. Snowden was trying to help Americans, and they called him a traitor. Pollard was helping another country leaking classified information about foreign operations, and he was released to another country on their own volition. That's how twisted this situation of our American government is. Think about Edward Snowden making Americans aware that they are secretly spying on you, and they call him a traitor, which maybe it's wrong, but at the same time, he's not helping a foreign nation. He's helping us because they were doing this to us. Five Eyes, there's this thing called Five Eyes, the intelligence sharing agreement between the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand has essentially no firewalls. Unit 8200 alumni running critical security, cyber security infrastructure globally. Pegasus on the phones of world leaders. Boston described by multiple intelligence insiders as a de facto shadow member of the Five Eyes arrangement. What you have, again, look at this. What you have is a surveillance architecture that does not respect the formal boundaries between ally and asset. In that architecture, the line between intelligence partner and intelligence target is thinner than most people would want to believe. Now, we're going to talk about the 7 visits of Netanyahu. Donald Trump, since he returned to the White House on January of 2025, Bibi visited him 7 times. That is 1 year and a couple months. 7 times in 13 months, 14 months, whatever, 13 months actually, maybe even 12 months. No other world leader on earth has come close to that number. They just haven't. The first visit was very less than a month, was February 4th, 2025, 14 days after the inauguration. Netanyahu was the very first foreign leader invited to Trump's White House. Not Canada, our largest trading partner, not the UK, our oldest military ally. Netanyahu. That is not noise. That is a signal, and it's deliberate, and it's documented. The Boston government posted the photos themselves on the internet, on government websites, on government.il. Oh, I have it right here. Yeah, you can see it right here. You can see it right here. This is gov.il. This is the government website for Boston. Their official government website, essentially. In the Oval Office, American flag, Netanyahu and Trump side by side. Okay? Checking my mic. They are not hiding it, and they are proud of it. Visit 2 was April 2025, Paris, Gaza. Visit 3, July 7th, Netanyahu met Trump twice in 24 hours. The second meeting was unscheduled. No media access, just the 2 of them. Visit 4, September 29th, 2025, post-UN General Assembly. Visit 5, December 29th, 2025, Mar-a-Lago, Florida. Visit 6, early February 2026, confirmed by Al Jazeera. And visit 7, February 11th, 2026, completely behind closed doors, no journalists present. Netanyahu did not even enter through the main entrance where the press was waiting. He used a side entrance. The meeting lasted 3 hours. Netanyahu's office said only that Israel's concerns were heard and that the sides reached full understanding regarding the future contours of action of the Middle East. 17 days later, February 28th, 2026, 2,000 strikes fall into Iran's lap.